I don't jump to conclusions. I take a pause and I think rationally and try to figure out multiple potential conclusions and then try to get evidence to find out the truth.
If you're jumping to conclusions too much, you likely know it, and there's room for you to maybe space yourself out. Use that 0 to 5 or 10 to 0, drive to 5 thing for that Allen
Everybody
Express.
space out.
Yeah, space it out. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals from all over the world, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. Today we have episode number 114. Are you jumping to conclusions too much? That is the question.
That is the question.
Are you jumping to conclusions too much? Probably. We're not sure. Let's find out. As always, Next Level Podcast Solutions, thank you so much for all of the great work that you do. Wilson and Joni in particular are the ones who produce this show. Next Level Podcast Solutions produces Conscious Couples Podcast and many other shows in the self-improvement space. Thank you for spreading the love, spreading the growth, spreading the joy, making this world a better place. Thank you. As always, my love, ladies first, what is your intention for today's episode?
My intention for today's episode for our listeners is to, number one, help them determine if they're jumping to conclusions too much, and the why it's so important to understand where you fall. If you're doing too much or too little, kind of like Goldilocks, there's definitely a specific formula in the love game where if you are jumping to conclusions too much, it might actually be damaging your relationship. So our intention is to try to figure that out today.
All I can think about right now, love, is a Jim Carrey impressions where he says, too much.
Oh.
If you've ever seen Ace Ventura, the Pet Detective.
I have.
Or Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. I'm really not sure which, to be honest. But let's get into the value. Too much.
So.
Okay, so I don't even know where to begin.
If you're jumping to conclusions, then likely you pressed this episode. I'll start there. Because the reason being is there's an intuitive part of you that knows that you're doing this and you're doing it maybe a little bit too much. Why?
Or your partner is.
Fair. Why? Because at the end of the day, when you're jumping to conclusions, you're skipping over being heard or letting your partner have a chance to be heard. So say, for example, your partner's out late.
Okay. I have a hypothetical scenario.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Your partner's out late and they're at work. They said they're going to get home late. Yeah. Tonight's going to be a rough night.
Mm-hmm.
They say they'll be home around 7. Okay. And you're at home waiting and 7 passes.
Is this a Friday night?
Sure.
Let's do it Friday night.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Yeah. 7 a.m. 7 p.m. passes, and then 7:15, and then 7:30, and then 7:45.
Mm-hmm.
There's a triangle called the CBT triad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thoughts, feelings, behaviors. And you start to have the thought by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, wow, I hope they're okay. I wonder if they are okay. You think they got in an accident. Ooh, what if they might be cheating on me? Again, jumping to conclusions. All of a sudden, you have the thought lead to the feeling, and the feeling comes in, and it's fear. Oh my God, they're cheating on me. And you feel the fear, and now all of a sudden, you're shaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then you jump to the next one, thought, feeling to behavior. And the behavior is to pick up the phone and leave an angry voice message. Okay. Then you find out partner comes in. They haven't listened to the voicemail yet. Hypothetical situation.
Mm-hmm.
Partner comes home. So sorry. my sister called me. She needed me. She had a flat on the highway. Whatever. Insert authentic situation experience there.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you're going, uh-oh, I need to delete his voicemail.
I remember the days where you could unsend text messages. It brings up a lot of like that.
So you grab his phone, go into his voicemail, delete it. I'm joking. You shouldn't do that because then he'll catch you grabbing the phone. It's a whole thing. Here's my point. Here's our point. You jumped to a conclusion that he was cheating. Now, does it get better or worse? Now the partner finds out that you thought he was cheating on you or she was cheating on you. And now they don't think you trust them, even though they were totally trustworthy. So you jumped to a conclusion based on a fear.
Or insecurity.
And now all of a sudden that hurts your relationship. So now they feel like they can't be trusted. So now they're walking on eggshells, which makes them say less truth, which then creates distance emotionally. And then eventually the whole relationship snaps in half. Now that's a hypothetical situation, and that's an extreme version, obviously.
Yeah.
It was quite the leap of, well, he's working a little late. 7:15. Oh my God, he's cheating on me. That's a bit of a leap. But honestly, we all do this in little things and in big things. And that's what Emilia and I really want to talk about today, because if you're doing that in your relationship, you are quite literally sabotaging it.
You are. And as a matter of fact, that brings up a ton of memories from my past relationships, which like my central nervous system is like, oh man, it's so nice to be in a relationship where you're not jumping to conclusions, because I had so many relationships like in the past where, whether I was in high school or in college, where that was always the case that my partner did. They would always be jumping to conclusions.
Same in hindsight.
It was so cagey in hindsight. And going back into that past version of myself, I remember the feeling of having to walk on eggshells. Like if I didn't come back in from studying and text him at this time when I say I did, then there would be this whole like hunt for Emilia, like friends being texted, XYZ, like what's going on? And it's like, oh my God, I need to live a little bit. Like it was very, very cagey. And it did end up actually, if I look back, like that's definitely one of the tendencies that sabotage the relationship for 100%.
Sure. 100%. So sweetheart, you and I, we've never talked about this before, at least not in depth in this frame, but I want to bring this up. So you and I both went to college and we had a partner who was not in college.
Right.
And so my girlfriend at the time, her name was Alicia, first name. And she was a sophomore in high school when I was a senior. So when I graduated high school and I went to WPI, went to college, tech school. Yep. And she lived about 40 minutes south of me. And you went to a school probably, 50, 60 minutes from your partner?
Yeah, it was about an hour, 20, I would say.
And when you say cagey, what was happening to me and to you, whether we were conscious of it or not back then, I don't think I really was, is she was constantly concerned. Yeah. Because there's that whole thing of when I go to college and you're not at college. Right. College is about partying and having sex and all this stuff. And I had a partner that was constantly concerned. Like, was she there? Yeah. She, as in my ex or whoever. And this is the thing, right? You're going to destroy the relationship if you constantly cause drama by jumping to conclusions. And what's ironic about this is that if they didn't do that, we probably wouldn't have ended up leaving them for other people, which we did ultimately end up doing.
Well, it's really, and it's also really frustrating when you actually put a lot of effort into becoming a trustworthy person, and then your integrity gets questioned by someone jumping to conclusions out of their own fear, their own magnification of a situation, their own insecurities. And it slowly eats away at the actual relationship that you two have built. And I can say that from firsthand experience, and I'm sure you can too, because you're someone who I've learned, at least in our relationship, that has worked so much on their character and integrity and learning from the lessons of life mistakes, which that happens too. And you're not going to be perfect. And at the end of the day, you're going to screw up and you're going to make mistakes. And can you have the safety at least built within your relationship to where you can actually confide in your partner to say, I screwed up, and I'm not proud of it, and XYZ, or I stayed out a little bit later than I told myself that I would. Like, God
and by
forbid.
the way, in college that happens.
Right.
And when you say cagey, I'm big on freedom and freedom of choice. Yeah. And babe, if you were to go out and stay later, the only thing I've ever shared with you is that I sometimes am concerned if you don't message me and let me know, because what if something happened?
Right.
But
that's where a lot of people's fear, I think, initially goes. But then it starts to spiral into all this other stuff. Right.
The other thing that I want to share on this is, if you have a partner who's jumping to conclusions, or you are a partner who's jumping to conclusions, you're not really giving your partner the space to have freedom.
Facts.
And to make their own choices.
Yes.
And give them the benefit of the doubt. And truth be told, there are relationships out there that have lost the right to have the benefit of the doubt.
Facts, because they've taken advantage
of your trust. And so I always was of this camp, and I think this is something, again, we've never talked about on air, but I was cheated on in high school by my first girlfriend, not Alyssa. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I used to, and I'm also super logical with this. I used to tell my best friend at the time, his name was Keith. I used to say, honestly, if she's going to cheat on me, I want her to do it sooner rather than later, because I want to leave her anyway. And I realize now that's a very computer engineering, rational thing. Mm-hmm. But I remember thinking to myself, if I have to stop you from doing something that
you want to do,
it's very irrational. If your partner's going to cheat on you, the only fear I really ever had was if they're going to cheat on me and then not tell me. That's what I was concerned with. Because if I have the data, I'll just leave you and whatever. And now I realize in hindsight, those weren't my people anyway. Right. I wasn't necessarily going to be with them forever anyway. And again, I was young. I didn't know.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're jumping to conclusions constantly, if you're not giving your partner the benefit of the doubt, if you're not trusting them, and if, more importantly, if you're not trusting them because your past was so messed up,
that's big.
And that's the problem. So Emilia and I, for example, I've been cheated on. If I was concerned and letting that trauma pepper, and let's say Emilia was late, and I started jumping to conclusions, who she's with, guys, are there guys there? You ever remember that? Are there guys there? Are there girls there? I always used to get that.
There's human beings around there? Always.
First of all, it's an engineering school, so apparently not. But yeah, it's like, of course there's girls there. And you and I used to have to feel like we had to lie just to be free. And I know that you dealt with that as well. And so anyways, if you're out there watching or listening to this and you're in college, you're in trouble. I'm kidding. But yeah, seriously, it's brutal. But if you're with your person, you're going to screw it up if you let your insecurities and your fears drive. And so the real point of this episode is thoughts, feelings, behaviors. The cognitive behavioral triad, CBT triad, is so powerful. You have a thought, which is a narrative, true or untrue. And you focus on that thought. Okay, my partner might be cheating on me. Fair. Okay. Feeling, ooh, they're cheating on me. Oh my God, fear, insecurity, fear,
hurt, disappointment.
All of a sudden you start
sadness.
Feeling it in advance, even though it's not true. It's in your imagination. And then behavior. I have to call him. I have to call her. I have to text him. I have to text her. And what happens is they feel caged by that. And inevitably you're going to end up creating an opportunity where they do cheat on you because you're such a crappy partner.
Yeah.
And so this self-sabotaging cycle is happening all the time. So the very last thing I'll share in this episode is, do not let fear drive. You have to have the humility to recognize when it's just fear versus when it's accurate data.
Hey everyone, this is Alicia Romanowitz. I wanted to take a second and give a shout out to Alan and Emilia. I've been listening to the Next Level University podcast for a while now, and I've also joined in on group coaching and book club, and I've gained so much value from these. And recently, I have started listening to the Conscious Couple podcast, and then joined in on their monthly meetups with relationship talks. And from here, my wife and I decided to jump on a call with them, and we had a few questions. This has just been a great experience. They not only provided us with some great tips and things to implement, they also got back with us and to check and see how we were doing. And that has just meant so much to my wife and I. And I just really wanted to give a shout out and thank them so much. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast or join in on the relationship talks, I highly recommend that. And also just jump on a call with them and get to know them a little bit better and just really lean into this resource. It's just been so valuable and I really appreciate it.
Right. I actually this file came back. I actually have a voicemail of a drunk, insecure past partner that had left me a voicemail just like that. And I remember saving it to myself because I never wanted to be in a relationship like that again, where someone could speak so out of line and so disrespectful.
Especially when it's not even remotely true.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
whoa, this is just not fair to me. And that, like, so for our listeners, what I also want to add in here is how important it is to cultivate the skill set of self-awareness around your insecurities, because everyone's going to have pain bodies or pain points or pain when it comes to relationships. We will get into relationships.
So if
someone
you've been
will hurt
cheated
us,
on,
right? That's a pain
then
body.
That's a pain
an
body.
insecurity.
So now you're going to notice any evidence and try to pick up on it.
You're fearful of that ever happening again because it was a really painful experience. We have our deepest wounds and our deepest fears and our deepest pain come from trying to love someone. And in our intimate relationships, those compound over time when we get in and out of relationships. And so much so that sometimes we, the ice melts around our heart and we don't trust people again and we don't want to get into a relationship, or you are in a relationship and it's already been 10 years and you still haven't let them beyond into your heart and your deepest vulnerabilities. And so knowing that our biggest pains come from that, I think that it is our responsibility as human beings to actually really reflect upon what were the most painful experiences in our relationships of the past that have generated a really deep fear or insecurity within me, because we will carry that quote unquote baggage into our relationship. No doubt, hands down, it will happen. You can't prevent that, but you can make space to really self-regulate when those moments might look, sound, feel the same, and give your partner the benefit of the doubt. So the skill set is how can you self-regulate in that one moment when your partner might be out a little bit more than they told you or whatever? How can you actually go in your thoughts and rearrange them such that you are giving them the benefit of the doubt instead of going into the full-blown narrative that is so clouded and colored by your past experiences or the biggest fear that you never want to ever experience a relationship, so that your relationship actually suffers as a result. How do you create that space? And I really do think that the skill of emotional regulation and being able to separate in this triad, which the link will be in the show notes for any visual learners here, the link or the triad will help you see how important it is to separate between thought and action, because so many people are actually just unconsciously thinking things.
Yeah.
And then they just jump into
they're unconsciously thinking
emotion.
things.
Right.
They're unconsciously feeling things.
Yeah.
And then their
just
central
behave.
nervous system's immediately autopiloting.
Exactly. Instead of actually taking a moment to self-regulate, to breathe and recognize, like,
am I being rational?
Right. I'm not in my past relationship, so like it's not necessarily fair for me to just go down this whole narrative. So, okay, let me pause myself. Let me take a breath. Let me try to regulate myself so that I can separate this space a little bit. I'm not in that same relationship anymore, or this isn't necessarily what the truth is.
Yeah.
It might feel like truth, but I don't have evidence to support that yet. And I think that's huge.
Everything is probabilities anyway. There's a it's possible that he or she is cheating on you, but you don't want to take that 1% chance and blow it up to 90 when they've given you no evidence to that.
Right.
And the one more thing that I feel very called to share here is there is the other side of this. So we just highlighted a circumstance where the thought created a feeling, created a behavior. The thought was, oh my God, he must be cheating on me or she must be cheating on me. The feeling is, oh my God, I'm being cheated on. The behavior is call immediately. What I also feel compelled to share is the opposite end. One end, you're giving your partner the benefit of the doubt, giving them space and allowing them to be who they are and give them the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But some people on the other end, they have the thought, maybe they're cheating on me and I have evidence that they've cheated on me in the past. The feeling is, oh my God, I'm being cheated on. But the fear is I'm going to be left if I call it out, so I'm going to turn a blind eye. The behavior is to distort your reality and pretend they're not cheating on you when you know deep down they are. So there's a drive to 5 here. I call it drive to 5, 0 and 10. On the 10 extreme, you're being cheated on and you know it, but you turn a blind eye because you're so afraid to be alone or you don't think you're worth it. The 0 is you're freaking out about being cheated on all the time with all irrational fears. And so drive to 5 means you give someone the benefit of the doubt, but you also read the obvious signs. And that's really hard to do. That's why I think life is so challenging. That's why relationships are so challenging, because everything is a spectrum. It's a pendulum. And if you're on any of the extremes, you're going to absolutely destroy your relationship. And so Emilia and I are constantly trying to help you stay at 5, which is, by the way, centered. Stay centered.
Which is where that emotional regulation is even possible. You know, and that's why, again, those skills of rationality, that drive to 5 is so critical. That's a tool, a trick that you can use to help yourself center up in those moments. And emotional regulation helps you recognize, oh, I'm actually like totally, my thoughts, I haven't weeded the garden of my thoughts at all from my last relationship. All of my insecurities are being highlighted by this one tiny circumstance. And it's going to destroy my relationship if I like let this go in. And then you also have people who never talk about their insecurities with their partners. They jump to conclusions and then they just have this giant villainization of their partner, and that drives them apart. So that's a whole nother episode, whole nother conversation that we won't have on this podcast, but hopefully our listeners had got something from this. If you're jumping to conclusions too much, you likely know it. And there's room for you to maybe space yourself out, use that 0 to 5 or 10 to 0 drive to 5 thing for that Alan
everybody
expressed.
Space out.
Yeah, space it out. Space out your reaction to the moment and actually choose your response. What is going to serve this right now, this relationship long term, this moment right now? What is more realistic of a conclusion of what's going on? And I'm not even going to go into thought challenging, but like what could be, there could be another alternative of what's happening here, right? And I think that our conclusions, we jump to them because we're deeply fearful of what other realities could be the case.
100%. What Emilia and I hope for you is, hopefully prior to listening to this episode, you might have been on side A, which is jumping to conclusions, or having a partner who jumps to conclusions. We want you to jump from A to B. Okay. B is, I don't jump to conclusions. I take a pause and I think rationally and try to figure out multiple potential conclusions and then try to get evidence to find out the truth and then act and behave based on the truth instead of on autopilot.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Awesome.
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay. Before we go, I want to also let everyone know that if you are struggling with thoughts, feelings, behaviors, jumping to conclusions, you or your partner, we have relationship talks coaching. It's been so much fun. Yes, it has been tremendous. I've learned so much. It's wild. The 4-way interactions between Emilia and I and another couple, there's magic that happens that just is different than one-on-one coaching. Yeah. So we really hope that you book. It can be you solo or you with your partner, if you dare. I'm kidding. Please book in our calendar. We do a half an hour free one. The first one's completely free for a half an hour. And we really, really, really love to meet our listeners. And there's no strings attached. Okay, so please reach out. We also have introduced our hybrid model, which like officially, which I'm super excited about. So hybrid model, we'll maybe tell you guys all about that in another episode, but I'm super excited for that because I think a lot of couples need that. But relationship talks call. Do you mind articulating it now? So high level hybrid model is what we found so many couples need, which is not only on a monthly or bi-weekly is the 4 of us sitting down. So you and your partner and Alan and I, and really getting into the throngs of not only where are some of the challenges and conflict points in your relationship, but also the goals and the dreams and the things that you guys want to build and work together as a team. We have that 4-way sit down, but then we also kind of split off into, okay, one-on-one interactions. And, once a month you have one call with Alan, once a month you have one call with me. And that hybrid model then kind of turns back into, okay, let's have the 4-way sit down again. So it's not one-on-one coaching, like just that. It's the 4-way coaching and then it's the one-on-one all combined together. So it will provide a really cool opportunity, I think, for our community to get individualized care and collective care together. What was happening is Emilia and I were coaching couples, and then I was connecting with the male, she was connecting with the female, and we also coach couples that are male, female, by the way. Yep. So I'm not trying to generalize here, but what was happening is they wanted to have one-on-one sessions with Emilia or vice versa. Right. And we were like, listen, let's do one per month where it's all 4 of us. Yeah. And let's also do one per month where it's guy to guy, female to female, and then let's all come together. And so it's really been quite magnificent when we've done that in the past, and some breakthroughs happened that wouldn't have happened without all of that cross-pollination, for lack of better phrasing.
So huge. So I'm super excited that that's now officially official in our community. So,
and there's a discount, by the way, for anyone who wants to do that. There's a discount on the one-on-one sessions if you are interested in that. So it's like a monthly thing where you get all of that for one sort of super lesser affordable price.
Yeah, it's amazing. So in addition, in the show notes, you'll see not only the free relationship talks call to have added value to your life and your relationship, but you'll also see the invitation to our next free live virtual monthly event that we have, Relationship Talks Events. And that's going to be April 18th. So if you're listening to this Monday when we're dropping this episode, it's going to be the Thursday of this week. So 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, April 18th. Who is your partner getting bad advice from is going to be the topic that we're going to discuss, get into with the community. And it's going to be, I can tell already right now, really good. And why I say that is because there's so many couples that have already said, man, if I didn't have my partner having that one friend that's talking into their ear, undoing all the things that we as a couple have been building, our life would be so much easier. So we're going to be getting into that in that event.
If you've ever felt like you were up against your partner's friend group, I've been there. And I know past partners of mine have felt up against my friend group. I had one, Alyssa, first names only. I had another friend of mine who they didn't get along at all. Yeah. They hated each other. And she always felt up against him. And I felt like I had to choose between them. Yeah. And again, that's a little hardcore version of this. But at the end of the day, who is your partner getting advice from? Who's in their ear? Who's in their consciousness? Mm-hmm. So that's what that event is going to be about. The link will be in the show notes to register, and we hope that you join us. Mm-hmm. Any last words, my love?
No, I think that this was great. Thanks, love.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And that's Relationship Talks virtual event number 34. 34 months in a row.
It's amazing.
It's wild.
We're so...
Wait a minute. Does that mean 2 more and we're going to be on 3 years?
Yeah. I'm so proud of our community. They keep showing up for themselves. They keep coming to these events. They keep adding, little snippets, questions, engagement, the validation that I think that our community has gotten by being able to get in the room together and really talk about some of these taboo topics that honestly, there's no other container like this. It's just been so amazing, and the community is growing, and I'm so proud of everyone with that. So it's been wonderful.
And you're going to realize that these are not you problems. These are human problems. Mm-hmm. That's the coolest part about what Emilia and I do individually at Evolve Ventures and at Next Level University and Conscious Couples Podcast is that we just have such a sample set of these same challenges over and over and over again. So you realize it's not just you. And when you get in this room, everyone has their own sort of unique take on these same challenges. So you're not alone in it. So we hope that you join us. And as always, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. It's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples Podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is a Lazaros 88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.